Good evening. Welcome to the January 20th, 2022 West Sacramento Planning Commission meeting. We continue to meet via teleconference pursuant to Government Code Section 54953, Subdivision E, by which members of the Planning Commission and staff are participating via live video conference to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Members of the public have been invited to watch the meeting via wave cable on our local channel 20, streaming online through the city's website and through the Zoom platform. Tonight's agenda and all agenda item materials are available on the city's website on the Planning Commission page. All public comments submitted by 5 p.m. via email to the Planning Commission clerk are available for consideration and are posted on the city website so that all commissioners and community members can see the complete text and submittal information. Members of the public participating via Zoom may also make oral comments during the meeting. The Planning Commission clerk will note the commenters for each item. With that, we'll proceed with tonight's agenda. First up is election of Planning Commission chair and vice chair for 2022. Okay. So with that, we'll open it up for nominations from the commissioners for chair. Commissioner Hirsch.
Thanks, Chair Sablon. Let me start by saying I think you've done a fantastic job over the past year as chair of the commission. You and Vice Chair Berliner are the two commissioners with the most experience serving on this commission. So I would move to nominate Vice Chair Berliner to be the new chair for the upcoming year if she'll accept the nomination.
A nomination for Vice Chair Berliner. Let's see. So quick question, do we do the second first or see if she accepts first?
Either way, if we do need a second.
I'm happy to second that.
Second by Commissioner Esquivel.
I accept.
Vice Chair Berliner accepts the nomination. Any other nominations from the floor? Not seeing any hands, so we'll do a roll call vote. Mr.
Yes,
Floyd?
we should.
Okay, so Ms. Flores, can you do the roll call vote?
We actually have,
No.
we have Lori Ledesma guest starring tonight from the city clerk's office, and we're very grateful for that because we are kind of shorthanded on folks who can help run the Zoom. So,
okay.
So Lori, if you're able to do a roll call on that, we appreciate it.
Commissioner DeAnda?
Aye.
Commissioner Esquivel?
Aye.
Commissioner Hirsch?
Aye.
Commissioner Lockhart?
Aye.
Commissioner Steiger?
Aye.
Vice Chair Berliner?
Aye.
Chair Sablon?
Aye.
I'm sorry if I mispronounced names.
So with that, I guess the nomination passes, and so I will hand over the virtual gavel to Chair Berliner to conduct the vice chair nomination and election.
Thank you, and thanks everyone. With that, do we have any nominations for vice chair?
Sorry, this is more just a question of order. So once the nomination takes place and it's accepted and it goes through, does that automatically trigger in this first meeting, or does it wait until the next meeting?
No, just like how Commissioner Berliner just is now the chair and will now chair this meeting going forward. Whoever becomes vice chair will slide into the vice chair role tonight. And then we will just pick up on our normal business going forward from there.
So it was really funny when we were in person because you would actually have people standing up and shifting chairs. But do we have any nominations for vice chair? Commissioner Hirsch.
Thank you, Chair Berliner. I've really valued a lot of the comments that Commissioner Lockhart's made over the past year in hearings. I think she has a very good grasp of the materials presented in front of us. And again, I've been very impressed by her substantive questions. So if she is interested, I would nominate Commissioner Lockhart as vice chair.
I would second.
I completely agree.
I agree too. So, yeah.
Well, thank you. This is unexpected, and I am so honored to have the support of my colleague, and I accept. Thank you.
With that, are there any, before we open the floor for votes, are there any other nominations for vice chair? I'm seeing head shakes. So with that, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Deanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Escobar,
Heck yes.
Commissioner Hirsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Steiger,
Aye.
Commissioner Sablon,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lockhart,
Aye, and thank you.
Chair Berliner,
Aye.
motion passed.
Commissioner Escobar?
No, I just want to say it's a great honor to have you both. Chair Berliner, you have experience here in the Planning Commission, and I'm excited for you to chair. Commissioner Lockhart, man, you have so much great experience, and we are so lucky to have you here. We're so lucky to have you be a part of our Planning Commission, part of our town, and you're going to bring so much knowledge with the new position that you have inherited, and yeah, I'm excited, and I just want to thank you all for serving in these positions. That's all.
Thank you. So moving on to general administration function, part 1B, presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the commission. Is there anyone who wants to speak on something not on the agenda tonight? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Moving on to C, correspondence and staff communications from the Planning Commission Secretary.
Just briefly, I would also like to commend Commissioner Sablon for being a great chair during obviously a very challenging time when so few of us have even been able to meet in person, let alone conduct our business on this platform. So, and which appears like we'll be doing that for at least a little while longer. So I think she did a great job, and I'm looking forward to you, Chair Berliner, and I'm excited to see Vice Chair Lockhart, move up and assume more of a leadership role. So I think both of you will do a great job this year too. So that's all for staff communications at this time.
Thank you, and yeah, awesome job, Commissioner Sablon. Sorry, I'm doing this off the cuff. I usually have notes. Moving on to disclosure of ex parte communications. Does anyone have anything to report or disclose? Okay, seeing none. Moving on to the consent agenda, consideration and approval of the minutes from December 2nd, 2021 commission meeting minutes.
I'll go ahead and approve. Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Oh, second.
Mr. Tilley, do we need a roll call for this?
Yes, we want to do roll call on all votes,
okay,
given that we're on the Zoom platform.
Okay. Madam Clerk, can you
Commissioner Deanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Escobar,
Aye.
Commissioner Hirsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Steiger,
Aye.
Commissioner Sablon,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lockhart,
Aye.
Chair Berliner.
Aye. Awesome. Minutes are passed. Moving on to the regular agenda, finding of general plan consistency for grading activities for the proposed Connect apartment project located at 2301 to 2415 Jefferson Boulevard. Mr. Laffey.
Yes, good evening. This item before you tonight is a general plan consistency finding for a grading permit. The city received a grading permit application last summer to prepare the site at 2301-2415 Jefferson Boulevard for a 322 unit multifamily project. This project site is the southern portion of the vacant field bounded by Jefferson Boulevard, Gateway Drive, and Clarksburg Branch Line Trail. It's right north of Station 45. The developer is American Property Development, and for background, they also have developed the Monticello apartments across the street from this site and the Capitol Place apartments along Sacramento Avenue. This item before you tonight is required as a provision in the grading section of the municipal code requires that any grading in excess of either 10 acres or 20,000 cubic yards requires the application be submitted to the Planning Commission to determine whether the proposed grading is consistent with the city's general plan. The proposed grading activities roughly covers 12 acres and it involves approximately 17,000 cubic yards of earthwork. 11,400 cubic yards of fill would be needed to be imported to the site, most of which would be needed for preparation of the building foundations. The site is zoned mixed-use neighborhood commercial and is also within the Southport Framework Plan. The grading work is for a project that received design review approval back in 2019. The item before you tonight is specific to the grading. Staff recommends the commission find the grading is consistent with the general plan as it is to prepare the site for a use that is consistent with the general plan. The applicant has submitted building permit plans for the site and a copy of the latest improvement plan. The approved design are provided as attachments to the agenda report. The preliminary plan is for a 4-story multi-family building along Jefferson Boulevard. And in the interior of the site, 4-story multi-family buildings centered around an amenity space for the residents. Staff also recommends the commission find the grading activities are within the scope of the general plan EIR analysis as outlined in the CEQA technical memo provided as an attachment to the report. This concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions, and city staff from development engineering are on the call to answer any technical questions regarding the grading, and I see the applicant is also on the call should any questions come up for the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Laffey. It looks like Commissioner DeAnda has some questions or comments.
Thank you, Chair. I guess it's more of a process question to start. I know this is just about the grading. Will we have an opportunity to see future? I mean, will this project come before us for other aspects in the future?
No, because so this project, it was first submitted in 2018. That was under a prior zoning code, which permitted by right multifamily. This is a multifamily project. So we processed it as a permitted by right project. It went through design review, publicly noticed the surrounding property owners for a design review. And then in 2020, they submitted a modification to their project. The zoning administrator approved the modification. That was also noticed to the public surrounding property owners. So the item before you tonight is specific to the grading. Should the Planning Commission approve this request, it would, unless the project changed, it would not come back before the Planning Commission.
I guess I just, I have concerns really about the impact on traffic in that specific area, spilling out onto Jefferson. You know, the stoplight that's at Monticello can be a bit of a nightmare at times. I'm wondering, is this going to require another stoplight? Either way, it's going to add significant flow on to Jefferson, in and out of Jefferson, if you have 300 units. I'm just really concerned about what that does to that section of Jefferson in general. So I don't know if there's, it's maybe a little outside the scope of the planning commission, but in terms of traffic mitigation and other efforts, it might be nice to have some information around that.
Yeah, and if it helps the commission, the CEQA analysis done for this technical memo, finding that this grading is within the scope of the general plan. In 2016, when the city council approved the general plan and the environmental impact report, they took a statement of overriding considerations on traffic. Basically, the EIR for the general plan found that traffic impacts would be significant and unavoidable. And the city council took a statement of overriding considerations, basically saying, we recognize traffic is an issue, but seeing the general plan being built out, the city built out as called for in the general plan, is important. So we did look at the developer, staff discussed the signal back in 2018 and 2019. Ultimately, a signal requires city council approval, and there needs to be a basis for the signal. And as you mentioned, Jefferson Boulevard is a major arterial, so any kind of future signal would potentially, cause more delay. But yeah, access to the site was studied. So part of this project, there will be a driveway connecting onto Gateway Drive. So anybody who lives at this project site going southbound, they could enter the site take the Gateway Drive, and they can enter it off of there instead of having to take a U-turn at Lake Washington or unsafe, unprotected left in an uncontrolled area right there at the project site.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. I guess it's more of a general concern too, that I know there's efforts with bridges and some other efforts, but I guess I see the growth that's kind of continuing to happen in our city, and I know there's a lot more on the horizon, particularly single family homes. And I haven't actually seen a lot of work, at least started on any of the traffic issues. And there's I think during COVID, it's been lessened a little bit because you just have fewer people on the roads in general. But prior to that, and then at some point in the future, it'll go back, and you have significant traffic issues within the city. And so I hear the desire to stick to the general plan and build out as proposed, but I'm not seeing simultaneous attention given to what that means to current residents and traffic, and adequately preparing for that. So I guess I'm just generally skeptical about adding large scale projects without ensuring that the overarching traffic issues are addressed. But I think I've got my questions answered.
Yeah. This year we will be working on, I think, Southport, looking at it more holistically as things have progressed, and from the framework plan days until now, some elements of that plan have materialized and some haven't. I think one of our biggest challenges in Southport is really there's not a lot of employment in Southport, particularly employment that with the wages that align with a lot of the real estate prices in Southport is especially acute right now, but just overall. So we will be going at this, and I know the council will be considering some of these matters when they do their strategic planning retreats next month. So there is some attention being paid to the matters you're raising, Commissioner DeAnda.
Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot I was chair for a second. Vice Chair Lockhart.
I want to thank Commissioner DeAnda for his questions, because I had similar questions about the traffic impact. And just to add a little bit more, there is also the train crossing right there. And so, I really worry about late in the afternoon when trains pass frequently, traffic getting really backed up right there. And, we have children walking to and from school in that area. So the impact that it has with pedestrians. I just want to flag that. I understand that this is likely out of the scope of what we're talking about tonight, but I just also want to offer that up. I do also have questions about the grading in particular. I know the materials we were given outline that the Parks Department has to approve any permits for the removal of heritage oak. And there were some criteria for what the applicant needs to do in terms of the heritage oak, but I didn't see anything in the report that specifically mentioned whether or not permits are in process or will be issued regarding the heritage oak.
Yeah, the applicant has been in contact with our Parks Department staff regarding getting the needed tree permits, and they'll need to secure those and pay any mitigation before they can start work on the site around any of the trees. As part of this development, the project is also subject to the Habitat Conservancy, Yellow Habitat Conservancy, and they have a fee for this site. The fee was about $180,000, if I recall, for mitigating for the loss of habitat for the species that are down there. So that'll not just the trees, but other habitat aspects.
I had some additional questions, Chair Berliner, if that is okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I also had questions related to the impacts that this will have with pedestrians and bicyclists and other people using the Branch Line Trail. The discussion about air emissions seemed to speak more about the industrial emissions from the equipment being used. Is there consideration of the particulate or the pollution created by dust? And then along those same lines related to dust, there are drought restrictions in place with the state. I understand that there are some exemptions for construction, but if you could speak to, or perhaps the applicant can speak to mitigations regarding water usage and the impacts to people using the trail.
Vice Chair, are you referring to like the more of the during construction?
Yes, during the actual grading.
Yeah, I'd like to ask our engineering staff that are on the call tonight to give you some of the overview of some of the dust prevention measures that we would typically apply to grading projects. If Candido or Eric can weigh in on how we address that during grading. Or not. Yeah, so those things are addressed during their grading. Grading
can you
plan.
guys hear me?
Yes, Eric. Yes, please.
Sorry about that. I had a call in. Yeah, I could chime in a little bit about that. So typically, control dust pollution during grading phases. They would do things such as, they put up physical barriers to prevent the dust from flowing out of the site, or the most effective one usually is making sure that they're watering the site, making sure that the dirt stays kind of watered. That'll weigh it down and prevent it getting picked up by the wind. That's typically the most effective one to keep dust. Was there any other concerns that you had?
I understood that water would be a part of controlling the dust pollution, but just wondering if there's also consideration of the drought situation the state's facing, and are we ensuring that we're not using potable water for this, or they're using recycled water, or something else to ensure that we're preserving our water resources?
Yeah, so typically the water would come from they get permits and meters that they put on fire hydrants. That's typically where the water comes from. Or if they have their own water truck, they could bring their own water in, but they are being charged for the water that they use from the city. So it's not just free water that they're getting to do this. So that would incentivize them to use less of it.
And just to clarify, the water from the hydrants, is that fresh potable water? Is that recycled water? What is the source of that water?
Yeah, it's the same source of water that domestic water would come from.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That concludes my question.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lockhart. Next up, we have Commissioner Esquivel.
No, those are really great questions. Kind of in line of what I was thinking about. My question really is now about what does the timing of this look like, right? Like we're talking about this. So what our citizens and residents what are we expected to see moving forward?
Perhaps when we go to public comment, we can ask the applicant to address their anticipated schedule for the project.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and put my hand back down.
Thank you, Commissioner Esquivel. Mr. Tilley, should we open up public comments so that the applicant can respond to some of these questions?
Yes, so we should always take public comment. Typically would start with the applicant, and then if there's anyone else on the call that wishes to provide their time, if we've completed any kind of clarifying questions from the commission initially, we can invite the applicant and any other public comment that there may be.
Okay. So I'm gonna let Commissioner Hirsch talk, and then I'll open it up for public comment. Does that sound good? All right, cool. Commissioner Hirsch.
Well, thanks, Chair Berliner. I had a couple of questions for staff based off the staff presentation, but based off Mr. Tilley's direction, I'm happy to reserve those questions for staff to after the public hearing.
Hey, then I'm going to open up the public hearing. Mr. Sinet.
Thank you, staff and to commissioners. Thank you for your time tonight. I guess to go back and answer some of the previous commissioners' questions and add to Mr. Laffey's explanation in terms of, I think, traffic being the first one. We've been going through this for a couple of years. I think giving some background to the project, when we developed Monticello, we had some agreements with the city to actually have a traffic light at the newly proposed entrance into this development. As we worked through this with city staff, we actually came to the conclusion that that wouldn't be the best use for traffic along Jefferson, just in terms of timing. And in doing so, we actually added a second entrance into Gateway, where there's already an existing traffic light. So in addition to that, we're a right in, right out only into the newly proposed development, which should hopefully, reduce the amount of traffic or potential traffic buildup along Jefferson heading northbound. And then anybody that wants to leave the site would go up to Gateway to then travel southbound. Going to, I think, Vice Chair Lockhart's questions in regards to some of the pedestrian items. So the branch trail, again, on the north side, we have the extension to Gateway. We're doing some improvements there where we'll actually provide a pedestrian light to help vehicular traffic flow for safety of pedestrian traffic over the branch trail from the south side into the north side. In regards to the grading, Mr. Rios had mentioned the primary or the most effective way is to actually do dust control via water. Our plans are to actually start hopefully in May. So typically that's still not a really dry season. We anticipate trying to get most of the grading and actually paving done as fast as possible to then cover the site as quickly as possible, which will then allow us to continue moving forward with the foundation work throughout hopefully the upcoming wet season. So hopefully in, I would say, 4 months, realistically, 4 to 5 months from construction start in May, we'll have the majority of the pavement down, anticipating that come October, when the rains do come back, we'll still be able to work the site for foundation work and then get into framing thereafter. So there's 3 buildings technically broken down into a couple different parts of 7 sections in total. They're all 4-story buildings, in addition to the 4-story residential buildings with 1 recreational building that's a single story, in addition to a gym that's a single story. Our anticipated construction schedule right now is about 26 to 30 months. Obviously, there's a lot of variables that we are currently trying to work through in terms of supply chain and concrete. Not that concrete's an issue down there, but there's a lot of variables that we need to address as quickly as possible and hopefully see this through within the next 2 to 2.5 years. Just going through my notes from what the commissioners asked, and I think that was all the questions that the commissioners had. And if there's anything else, I'd love to address them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sinnett. Are there any other any other members of the public wishing to speak on this item? It doesn't look like it, but I'm going to keep public comment open just in case commissioners have more questions for Mr. Sinnett. With that, do any commissioners have any other questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Hirsch.
Thank you, Chair Berliner. I want to start off by emphasizing that I agree with Commissioner DeAnda's initial questions. As someone who lives south of the proposed project, I've seen what traffic on Jefferson can be like. At the same time, any increase in housing, whatever point on Jefferson Boulevard, will lead to increased usage of Jefferson Boulevard. And so I'm not necessarily concerned by the traffic impact of future residents at this proposed site. I did notice in the staff report, though, that it mentioned that roughly 1,000 truckloads will be needed to import earthwork to the site for the grading that we're focusing on tonight. And so I hope that Mr. Sinnett, we can take away from the discussion that the commissioners have had. There is a real community concern about unnecessary traffic impact. If there could be any mitigation, if in any way the grading trucks could come, not during those particular heaviest times of day, the commute hours as Southport residents commute north, where the high school students go to the school and back. It is a heavily used road, and so any mitigation to traffic that could be done would certainly be appreciated by the community, I feel. That said, I had 2 questions. The first question is for Mr. Laffey, and it goes to Vice Chair Lockhart's question about the heritage oak trees. Understanding that some of the oak trees on the site will have to be removed possibly for the grading process. Could you describe, Mr. Laffey, what the city's mitigation process is in that situation?
Yeah, sure. So the city has a tree preservation ordinance, and there's 2 types of trees in that ordinance. There are landmark trees, and then there are heritage trees. So for an oak tree, a heritage tree, there's a mitigation for whenever you remove a tree over a certain size. I think it's 50 inches in circumference of the trunk, and that mitigation has been $325 per inch in circumference, or replanting one tree per inch. So that's been the standard mitigation. Ultimately, this is all up to our Parks Department. And they're the ones that issue the tree permit, which would have any kind of mitigation. But that's been the typical mitigation, $325 per inch measured in circumference, or 1 tree per inch. And that 1 tree that they would be having to plant would be on top of what would normally be required for the landscape development guidelines.
Thank you. And then my second question, and I'm not sure if it's for city staff or the applicant best position to answer, but as Vice Chair Lockhart mentioned, it looks like some grading will be done for this secondary driveway that goes towards Gateway Drive. It looks like they'll be quite close to the current Clarksburg branch line trail that's used by pedestrians and families and others. So I just wanted to make sure in the proposed grading in front of us, would any of those heritage oak trees that form that sort of wall barrier between the path and the proposed project, are those trees proposed for removal in this grading, or is it other trees we're talking about?
So as part of the agenda item, you go to the attachment that has the improvement plans. There's a portion of that has the demolition. If you go to page C6 of the improvement plan, which is on page 13 of the PDF, I don't know if PDF pages are the same for what you received, but this is attachment 4. So if you go to attachment 4, then you scroll down to we're in the bottom right where it says C6. You'll see where basically it shows what trees are proposed to be removed. So for the area for the access driveway near Gateway, you'll see that almost all the existing trees are proposed to be still there. They're going to be maintained. There's one tree that would need to be removed for that driveway, but most of those trees would be in between the proposed driveway trail.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate all that information. The only comments I have to share on this proposal, and again, understanding that the scope of today's action is simply the grading plan, I certainly appreciate the thoroughness, the staff technical memo. I think it does a very thorough job analyzing the issues in front of us. But beyond the grading plan, I do just want to say, I am glad to see additional multifamily housing projects proposed in Southport. You know, right now we're seeing a lot of near $1 million single family homes in this neighborhood. And it's certainly pricing out a lot of folks, especially the younger generations. So I welcome a diversity of housing stock in our community. And I think especially the location of this particular site along a major arterial, within walking distance of major shopping centers, within walking distance of the Barge Canal. I think it's a good addition to a good location. That said, I do wish there had been more of a mixed use component to this project, especially on the side facing Jefferson. I wish there had been more pedestrian uplift, especially given the location where it is again. But I do look forward to this project. I do find the staff analysis to be very thorough. And so I would move the staff's recommended action at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Commissioner Hirsch. And I just want to say, I want to echo all of the comments that my fellow commissioners have provided to city staff and to the applicant. You guys have done a very thorough job of asking questions. Personally, I'm excited to see, as Commissioner Hirsch said, more housing in general. And it's nice to see housing south of the Barge. It's nice to see more apartments south of the Barge Canal rather than single family homes, because it brings a diversity to those neighborhoods. And I think that's amazing. I am a little concerned about traffic, especially off Jefferson, but it sounds as though this project is trying to mitigate traffic impacts on Jefferson as much as possible. But, in order to have more housing, which we are going to see throughout the years, as when we see more housing, that means more cars, unless, everyone gets on a bike or gets on a scooter and goes, or uses public transit. So with that, I would like to, I guess Commissioner Hirsch has moved staff's recommendation. Is there a second? Oh, do I need to close public comment?
Yes, please.
I'm going to close public comment. And with that, is there a second on Commissioner Hirsch's movement?
I'll second Commissioner Hirsch's movement.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Sablon,
Aye.
Commissioner Deanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Escobar,
Aye.
Commissioner Hirsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Steiger,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lockhart,
Aye.
Chair Berliner.
Aye. And with that, the motion passes. Next up on the regular agenda, we have the public hearing regarding proposed 3-year time extension for River Oaks Vesting Tentative Subdivision, map 5139, located at 3131 Village Parkway and 1525 Lake Washington Boulevard. Ms. Allen? Ms. Allen, you're still muted.
Sorry about that. I'll start over. Good evening, Chair Berliner and members of the Commission. This item is a request for a 3-year time extension for an existing tentative map. The tentative map is for 116 residential lots in the River Oaks subdivision, which is part of Newport Estates. The project is located both east and west of Village Parkway and also south of Lake Washington Boulevard. The applicant has requested the time extension, so they have additional time to work on the continuation of the roundabout, which would be at the intersection of Lake Washington and Village Parkway. As with so many things these days, their work on this has been delayed due to COVID. And so that is the main driver for asking for additional time. Staff feels that this is a reasonable request and is recommending approval. If you have any questions of me, I'm happy to answer them. Also, we have staff from our engineering department here, as well as the applicant, should you have questions for him. That concludes my presentation at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Do any of the commissioners have any comments or questions? Okay, I'm going to open it up to public comment. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this matter? Okay, I'm seeing none. With that, I don't have a problem with the time extension. We need more housing, so anything we can do to, keep the possibility of building more housing alive, I'm going to support. And I just want to thank city staff for bringing this to us, and hopefully the applicant and the project will be able to move forward. With that, do I have a motion to move staff's recommendation?
I'll move to approve staff recommendation.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Sablon. Vice Chair Lockhart, you have your hand raised.
I'll second that. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. And seconded by Vice Chair Lockhart. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Sablon,
Aye.
Commissioner Deanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Escobar,
Aye.
Commissioner Hirsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Steiger,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lockhart,
Aye.
Chair Berliner.
Aye. Aye. Aye, sorry.
That's it.
The motion passes. Sorry, I have to go back up to top of my screen and it's not there. What is
good job. You're doing.
Thank you. What's next up on the agenda, everyone? Because my computer's frozen.
We are on part 2A.
Okay.
Informal discussion.
Is there any informal discussion that? There we go. Informal discussion. Mr. Tilley, is there anything that you'd want to discuss?
Just that we will be meeting again, our next regularly scheduled meeting, February 3rd. So we will be right back here in 2 weeks with a couple of items for your consideration.
Thank you. And Commissioner Sablan?
Oh, sorry. I was looking for the raise hand thing.
Okay.
I think if there isn't anything further, I would ask that we adjourn in memory of Ileana Evelyn Esquivel.
Yeah, I agree.
I second that or third that.
With that, Vice Chair Lockhart.
I just wanted to offer my support and condolences to everyone who loved Ileana. She attended one of our planning commission meetings, so she was a public servant on the short time that she spent on this earth. And I'm so grateful for the strength and courage of Commissioner Esquivel to join us so soon. So thank you.
Mr. Tilley?
If there was a motion to adjourn under that honor, which is very richly deserved in my view, if there's a second on that, then that we can vote in that manner, and the minutes will reflect it. We won't do a roll call vote on adjourning, but I think we should take that action and make it formal.
Okay. I believe that there's Commissioner Esquivel.
I just want to make it publicly said that, I appreciate you all and I appreciate all the support that you have provided. It's every parent's worst nightmare, but, you have people like you all, and you are there to support us. So I just want to thank you. Thank you. And, thank you for adjourning in her memory tonight. Also, their dogs are crazy. But just thank you for thinking about our family. And, please continue to keep in prayer.
I think we had a motion and I think we had a second. So Madam Clerk, if you could. No, we're not.
We don't need to do a roll call for this
Okay.
one. I just think a voice vote would be sufficient to adjourn tonight in Ileana's honor.
A los Estados Unidos un mejor país que sus naciones de origen. Hey. Dicen que aquí tienen mejores oportunidades para salir adelante y criar a sus hijos.
No, sister. Hey, sister. Turn your thing off.
All those in favor of adjourning in memory of Ileana. I'm sorry, I'm really bad with names. Ileana Evelyn Esquivel. Say aye.
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 I don't think anyone's going to be opposed. So with that, I hope everyone. Do I need to ask if anyone's opposed? No. Okay. Cool.
They better not be.
Okay.
Tell me who you are.
With that, I hope everyone has a good night and a good weekend. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Just thank you all. Thank you so much. You all have been great person. We don't have to be on record.